Hi, Pear.
Hi,
We'll
Kristen.
we'll
Lovely to
say
see
hi
you.
again,
Yeah,
as though
great
we
to
didn't
see
just
you.
spend. Um, so I'm really glad that you joined today because we are going to talk about your experience working on Look Into My Eyes. So why don't you tell me how it started? How did you get involved in it?
Well, it was kind of like a mystical thing that happened, and I'll explain to you why. So I sometimes have prophetic dreams, I'm sure as you do as well. And sometimes they're literal and sometimes they're more symbolic. So I had a dream that I was like reading Taylor Swift. Um, And I was like, oh, great. So I'm going to be her personal psychic. Of course, that's not what happened, but I ended up getting an email from one of Lana's producers who said that they were doing a documentary and it's by Lana Wilson who directed the Taylor Swift documentary. So I was like, oh, that's how that
Oh,
fits.
wow. I love that.
Yeah.
Oh,
So that
that's
was like a few months before that email. And so I looked into Lana's work and it was really, I thought, like a respectable kind of catalog of documentaries that she's done.
yeah.
Um, and because she's also done documentaries about like suicide prevention and late-term abortions, along with her more mainstream pop star documentaries like Taylor Swift and who's that girl from the Calvin Klein ad? Pretty Baby. Brooke Shields.
Right.
She also
That's
did
right. That's
with
right.
Brooke Shields. Um, and I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be like a reality show kind of housewivesy, which there's nothing wrong with that. I love the Housewives, but
Yep.
I don't want to be on the Housewives. Do you know what I mean? And her perspective of it was just very, I thought, interesting and curious, and she came from a place of curiosity. So I signed up,
How did they
and
find you?
they found me on Yelp.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they found me on Yelp, and they had me read one of her producers. And I think what they did was screened a bunch of intuitives and had a bunch of readings and kind of just um, tapered it down to perhaps, I guess, who they thought would be interesting subjects
Yeah.
or who they felt connected to in their own personal ways.
Yeah. It must have been really it must have been nerve-wracking to I would have been felt it was so nerve-wracking to give the readings in front of the camera, knowing that this is what that must have
Yeah.
been so hard.
I yeah. Usually I would be like no because I am such a nervous Nelly and I don't feel very confident in front of the camera.
Nervous Nelly.
Um, and sometimes, as you know, the information that we give the clients don't make sense in the moment and will sometimes make
Yeah.
sense weeks, months, and maybe even years later,
Yeah.
you know? And so a lot of that can't be captured in the moment. So I went into it with a lot of hesitation, but again, Lana and the crew just felt so warm and welcoming and really professional. I think a lot of her energy lent itself to the comfort of the intuitives,
Hmm.
how much we were willing to like show and
Hmm.
share.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that, and we talked a little bit about this, but that's something that I really appreciated about the documentary is that it captured the reality of giving and receiving readings, which is not this constant glitzy, all the information hits spot on, which you see on shows like, Tyler Henry or Teresa Caputo, because that's what they need to do. They do the editing and they only put in the information that hits, right? And that's just not how it works for anyone. There are always there are always moments where, like you said, the information isn't incorrect. It's just that it's either not interpreted properly or it's just it isn't relatable until maybe years later, but usually it does hit, right?
Yeah, I keep thinking back to one of my teachers who said that spirit never wastes a thought. And
Hmm.
so either I'm not interpreting correctly, the client isn't understanding correctly, or both of us are misconstruing what Spirit is trying to say. But I still have to say it just because it's given to me, you know?
Absolutely.
So even if it does make me look like a fool, I've
Yep.
learned to just accept that.
Yep. And I feel like for me it helps build confidence. In fact, just accepting and knowing that what you're
Yeah.
sharing has value. There is meaning behind it. Just because it isn't validated right away doesn't mean that it's not valid.
Yeah.
Um, I was watching Tyler Henry had a show on Netflix that was live. Did you happen to catch that?
I don't think so, actually.
It was like a live showing, just like what you did. And he had many, many moments where people couldn't connect with what he had to say. So just
Yeah,
to
I think that's really good to show because we are not these all-knowing beings and not everything makes sense. And it is kind of like an esoteric, symbolic communication that we have with the other side. It's not like a voice box where you and I are speaking to each other.
right.
At least not the way I experience it.
Right. I think that's the case for everyone. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I think it is the case for everyone. It's mostly very circuitous communication that you
Ooh, what
have
does
to
that word mean? I like that
Well,
word.
I use it a lot. Anybody who comes to my circle probably rolled their eyes when I, if they watch this, they roll their eyes when they hear that. But to me, it just means, taking all kinds of different twists and turns and,
Oh, okay.
circuitous. But maybe
I love
that's
it.
not what it means to me. That's what it means. Um,
Kind of snaky.
yeah, and you have to follow it. It's not always going to be, it's not linear. It's never linear.
Yeah, that's so interesting, that whole part.
I know it is. So So we discussed also the way that the mediums were presented as mostly being artists, and in fact, not just artists, but actors and performers. And
Yeah, I
what's
thought
your
that was
take on that?
Um, what's interesting is that I was speaking to the director about it, and that was not her intention, and I think picking the people, but it just happened to be that I think five out of the seven of us, and the Kenya and I are the only ones without really any stage or screenwriting or film experience. I think I could be wrong, so everyone please correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. Um, and so I think that it did lend itself to the skepticism of, well, are they just improvising or performing? But I think also the deeper aspect of it is that I do feel like great art and great performance is often channeled as well. And so that's why I don't think they're that dissimilar. But I think where people may sometimes misconstrue it is where they feel like, well, they're being inauthentic or they're just being scammy because they're acting, you
Yeah.
know?
Yep.
That's what I don't agree with. I don't, obviously, because this is what you and I have put a lot of effort and meditation and practice into. Like we believe this is real and we've both experienced things that like we no one else could explain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And a lot of people haven't, and that's fine too. But I think to just kind of do a sweeping like these are all actors and improvisers, so none of it is real kind of statement is a little bit harsh and um trite and lazy, I
Yeah.
would say. Um, but I also understand that if you're going to come into this with a sense of skepticism, which I think is healthy for anyone, and then
Hmm.
you see that pattern amongst these people, that could be a natural conclusion that you come up with, and that's okay too. But I think what really triggers me is when people have a very like rude and condescending kind of attitude and energy around it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, because again, Nikenya and I are not actors or improvisers, but our fellow colleagues are, and I love all these people, and all of these people are just genuine people, and I would defend them. I'd be like, that's really easy for you to say, but you don't really know what this work involves.
Yeah. Have you received that kind of feedback? generally from people about from skeptics,
Um, Not personally,
but you've
but
heard.
I've read like professional critic reviews and also like letterboxed reviews of people mentioning this and then using that as kind of having that being their key takeaway
Yeah.
from the whole experience.
My take on it is that I think it is true that a lot of former and still, pursuing actors are involved in spiritual pursuits as well. I do think it's true. Like for instance, Matt Kahn was an actor. You know Matt Kahn?
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he
I
was.
know
He
him. Yeah.
he
I've
was
read
he
a
was
book of his, I
a
think.
serious actor when he was a child, and he was almost in the Brady Bunch movie. It didn't happen, but he almost played Greg in the Brady Bunch movie. But I have feelings about it too. And I think the truth is that a lot of people who are pursuing acting or performing or any kind of presence like that are seeking something, seeking deeply. And a lot of
Yeah.
times that seeking can be a seeking in pain, and looking to be seen, looking to be heard. And this is not a diminishment of actors. I think that's why many people become good actors, is because they
Yeah.
seek in that way.
Yeah.
And so that pain that led them to seek that kind of, either validation or acceptance or just being seen for who they are, leads them to a healing process that then takes them to mediumship. So they're already in kind of, and I don't mean to generalize, obviously, not all actors are in a state of pain or are seeking anything, but
Yeah.
many are. And
Yeah.
I think that that path tends to lead to a healing journey that then takes them to mediumship.
Yeah, I agree. I think that also like great actors and great artists in general um need a certain level or not a certain level, but are extremely compassionate and empathic and deeply feeling.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I feel a lot of the genius comes from, I
Mm-hmm.
think, let's say. And so I feel you also need to be deeply feeling and compassionate and empathic to be a medium.
Yeah.
And so I do feel they share similar requirements or personality types. Um, but yeah, I was never an actor, but I was in design, and that uses, I think, the same side of the brain. Um,
Yeah.
but I just think creativity lends itself to spirituality very
Yeah.
easily.
I was an actor.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. Um, for a long time. And then my life exploded in many ways, just within a year, lots of loss within a year. And it
Yeah,
led me to a totally new place of, healing and coming into terms with who I was and who I became, which was a better person,
yeah,
and exposed all of my gifts that were already there, but just I
yeah,
wasn't fully
yeah.
practicing. So, um,
It reminds me of like if an actor is truly trying to embrace a role, they have to really almost they have to embody that role like a spirit embodies a person sometimes when they're channeling. It's a little bit of like the opposite, but I ultimately it's the act of connection. Like as an actor, you're connecting to this person who is written for you and who you have to bring to life.
yeah. And you need to be open to what you need
Yeah.
to be open to receive. As an actor, you need to be open to receive, and as a medium, you need to be open to receiving. So,
Yeah. So I definitely feel like the similarities are there. I have to be honest, I did take offense to it when I first read it because I was like, I'm not an actor. I'm not faking this. But I also begin to understand like it's it's a similar personality type. It's a similar level of compassion and empathy that is required.
yeah. And I do, though, I do think that artists in general are that there is something driving. You draw, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you're good. You're really good. I've seen some of your work. I've seen some of your fantasy stuff that you do, like dragons and things like that, right? Is that true? Am I imagining that?
I did a lot of that in like high school.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
maybe.
I am wanting to do more like I've been looking at like painting classes here in
Yeah.
London.
I remember seeing a notebook of yours in Circle in
Oh,
Melissa's store.
I'm sure I doodled a dragon or two.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I do think that artists come from a place of some kind of pain. And it's all individual and it's obviously different levels. And I think that coming through pain to the other side and becoming more open because of that suffering opens you to spirit more. So I really do think that connection is there. And I just totally agree with you. I mean, just because someone was an actor doesn't or is an actor doesn't mean they're faking it. It's just
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, and I understand the skepticism, and there are really awful scammers
Yeah.
and people who take advantage of vulnerable people, but that's not this group. We don't
Yeah.
seek out people. We're not the people messaging others saying there's a curse around you and
No.
you need to talk to us for us to lift it from you.
Right.
Like people come to us. We're not going to them.
I can see that from everybody. Everybody was beautiful. Um and everybody had a certain level of suffering. I keep mentioning it because I really think that's a prerequisite almost to being a medium is suffering.
Yeah.
To being a true, connected person who is in pursuit of your spiritual, you know, communication, I think requires
Yeah.
some level of suffering, honestly.
I think like suffering and like really tumultuous moments in one's life just amplifies one's sensitivity and like breaks open one's heart.
Yeah, exactly. And it's painful, but it's also, as Ram Dass would say, it's grace. Suffering is grace, and that's the
Yeah,
grace.
yeah.
Um, Do you want to do you want to tell what happened with the skateboard? And the only reason I even remember that it's a skateboard is because you said it in your comment. But
Yeah.
do you want to share what?
So so my whole gripe with the film was like, wait, I filmed so many sessions and only two of them made it. And the first one was really connected. I remember that man very, very much. And
Yeah,
I really love that session that we had together and they showed
yeah.
a little bit of that. And then this other session where I started with a skateboarder didn't go so well, right? It's a whole thing that's so interesting to me. Um, and then there was like a bunch of other sessions. Like I think we filmed like at least 20 sessions, maybe I could be counting wrong, but around there. Um,
Wow.
and so I was like, I finished the movie. I was like, wait, only two sessions of mine made
Ah,
it. A little bit disappointing, but
yeah.
it's fine. Um, I have to say that in filming these sessions, I personally was not at my most comfortable and best, I feel. Like there's people around you, and it's not invasive. They're not like in your face with a camera. They're set up quite still. But you're very much aware that there's like seven people in the room,
Yeah.
plus the client, you know? Um, and so I really don't feel like I did my best readings in this moment, but that's fine because that's what the moment requires. Um, and in that session, I was seeing so clearly like a young man who was a skateboarder, and my client in front of me, remembered them. I feel like they were of like Latina heritage, Latinx heritage. Um, and the person that I kept seeing also had a very similar skin tone, like an olive tanned, light brown skin tone. And so I thought that that connected to her. And so I asked her about it, and she did not understand. She did not get it.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was like, but he's here. Like, I swear on my grandmother's grave that I see this person. So I pushed it out to the people around. I was like, does anyone recognize this? Because I know I'm seeing this and no one can take it. Which was really embarrassing for me, but made a
Ugh.
great moment in the film to
Ugh.
break that third or fourth wall. But what upset me, and I talked about this with the director, was that I did try again. Like I let that skateboarder go for a while, and I tried again with that client, and I did end up really creating a good connection with her. And I was even able to download like a special secret nickname that like her grandfather or her father had given her that no one knew
Wow.
about, you know? But that didn't make it in the film. I was like, why? I thought that moment was so magical. And she was telling me like I wanted the audience to sit with you in that moment when things didn't go well. And that even though things don't go well, you still have to trust and believe and say it. And she said, I thought that was really powerful. I understand if it's embarrassing. I understand, that's not what you wanted, but I feel like it made the most sense for the narrative of the story. It's like, oh, fine, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but ultimately, what was crazy is that I have a client here in London, and I did a reading with her once, and we connected to like her best friend who passed away. And we had a great reading that one time. And then when the film was um, premiering in London for BFI, um, I had some extra tickets to give away. And so I asked her if she wanted a ticket because I thought she would enjoy the movie. And so she goes to the movie and then she messages me right after the film because she's like, "Why did you give me that ticket?" I was like, "I don't know, I just felt like it." And she was like, she was like, "We didn't connect to this person during our reading, but I had a younger brother who passed away and he was a very talented skateboarder and I helped buy him his first skateboard." And I was like, "What?" And this person is also kind of a tan olive skin tone, like the person I saw in my original vision of the skateboarder. And she said also, what's crazy is that you had a picture of you and Alex in the documentary. Like my friend that I talked about, they showed a
Yep.
picture of him and I on my phone. And she said that date of October 22nd that's stamped on your photo is when my younger brother passed away. And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" And then he was like, "When did you film that?" And I looked back at our filming schedule. We filmed it on October 22nd, the day her brother passed away.
Oh my God.
So that's why I'm like, what is this weird space-time continuum where like
Oh,
I fully believe that like her brother was kind of reaching out to me prematurely or like
I do
not
too.
prematurely, but before we both knew what was going to happen, you know?
He knew he
Uh,
has access to time in a way that we don't.
that's what I mean. Yeah, there's like a weird,
I have
yeah,
goosebumps.
access because I always feel like there's not a sense of time and place on the other side. It's
Yeah.
not bound by those dimensions like we are. But I mean, like, what is the coincidence? Like, what are the odds that
No
I would film
odds.
that scene the exact day that her younger brother passed away? And that the photo stamp of my best friend and I who passed away would also be the date that her brother passed. It's just so many
That
weird
is,
coincidences.
it's incredible. And I feel like Lana should do a film just about that.
I
I really do.
I think Lana's moving on to other
Yeah, maybe,
projects.
but someone should because that is beautiful and just incredible. I'm so glad you were
But
able to share
it's
that.
one of those things where I really, and this is something I still struggle with because in this work, we are set up to look like fucking idiots and fools. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like, it is really easy for someone to break down everything we say and do, but I still have to say it because even if it doesn't make sense now, and even if I look like an idiot and my ego's bruised, I just have to trust in spirit because there's no other way to do this work.
which you did, and in a timeless, universal, incredible way, you delivered the message that needed to be delivered. It makes me think of, I never had any feelings about Teresa Caputo at all. I don't really follow mediums that are well known, really. I mean, I'm interested in them, but I don't like go to shows usually. I went to Tyler Henry and I went to Teresa Caputo because she came here.
Oh,
And when
nice.
when I went to see her, I was amazed at the way in which she all mediums do this, but the way in which she really gives messages to the whole audience with one
Yeah,
person. And
I
it
love that.
happened for me with my father. He came through so strongly in messages that she was giving people for about 20 minutes. He came through and everything she said, it was my father. And it's makes me think of that with your friend. It's like you knew she needed it, you gave the message to her. It's amazing. You gave the message to her through the film without anyone knowing, gave her a ticket, and she got the message months later. It's just beautiful.
Yeah, we ended
That's
up having another reading just focusing on her younger brother because again, our first reading was more connecting to someone else that she'd lost. So again, I think it was interesting playing with time and expectation that that wasn't the moment her younger brother chose to come through. It was when she saw the film that we made the connection. At least I believe it. I mean, or there's just like some crazy coincidence.
no, I don't believe in coincidence. And
Um, but
I
yeah,
think,
I just saw this movie called Presence, the Steven Soderbergh ghost
oh,
story.
yeah.
And a lot of people didn't like it, which I get. It's not particularly scary. It's not really a horror movie. It's more like a family drama. But the way the spirit tries to interact with the family and the way the spirit perceives time and its own limitations, and I just thought that's what I think they see when they try to interact with us, or that's what I think happens when they try to interact with us. It was really fascinating. So
Ooh,
if anyone's into like ghosts and mediumship and spirit, I highly suggest to watch that film.
I'm gonna check that out. I forgot about that. I did intend to see it, but now definitely. Did you see Nosferatu?
Yeah, I saw it twice.
Me too. Me too.
Did you like it?
Immediately after I watched the first time I watched it again. I rented it. I didn't see it in the theater.
I saw
Yes,
it in the theater and I saw it at home and I'm obsessed with it.
me too. It was so scary. It was to me, it was
Yeah,
legitimately scary.
I was, and I liked that the main character, um, Eleanor, I think they call her Lenny, whatever her
Yeah.
name is.
Yep. Ellen. Yeah.
Um, they kind of hinted at her intuitive abilities.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah.
And he told her if this was another time and place, you would be a high priestess. I thought that was so powerful.
Yeah. I did too. I did too. It was just terrifying and sensual, but truly terrifying. It's hard to
Yeah.
find. I mean, I don't really get scared by horror movies anymore, generally. I just enjoy them. But that was scary, like Exorcist.
Scary and like sexy also.
Yeah, I know. Even though it's hard to believe it was because especially the I was taken in when what's her husband's name? It's very annoying that I'm doing this right now, but Nicholas Holt,
Let's hold. Yeah.
the actor is Nicholas Holt. When he confronts Nosferatu for the first time, it was just he was so
Yeah.
terrified that he sold it so perfectly, and it just was like,
That whole
ugh,
scene was so mesmerizing and hypnotic. I felt like I was in like a fever dream or like on mushrooms. I thought
I
it was so well
know,
done.
I know,
Yeah,
incredible.
I geek out. I definitely geek out over horror movies, as people know who watch the film.
Yeah, yep. Yeah, I loved everything about I loved hearing everybody's stories in the film and um just getting a real a sense of where their pain comes from, right? It seems like Lana really understands that theory or that philosophy that pain really is an opener. And I
Yeah.
loved hearing that. And I especially loved your presentation and I loved the circle that you guys did. I loved your circle.
Oh
So
yeah, I think it
powerful.
was the first time I met everyone. No, interestingly enough, Michael, the other Asian man in the film, we were in online classes together. So I knew
Oh,
him before, and I was like, "Hey, I remember you," and he was like, "I remember you too." So that was a really great, another little synchronicity.
was it like Arthur Finley or something?
It was Journey Within.
Oh yeah. I did
Yeah,
Journey Within too.
yeah, with a Pam, I think was her name, the teacher.
Okay. Janet passed.
I know. That's I think that was like 2 or 3 years ago, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
That was a good group.
I feel very fortunate to have been in one of her classes at some point. I think I had like a few classes with her, and
Me
I
too.
found her quite compelling.
I think you told me about them. I think I went there because of you. Yeah, she was a part of a lot of the circles that I joined. She happened to be joining at that time. Then she kind of stopped and handed it over. But
Yeah.
what's her last name? Janet Nahovac?
Nahavik. Nahavik? Nahovak?
Nahovac.
So,
Nahovac, yeah.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I loved the circle. It just was so I just loved watching just me, mediums working.
Yeah. One of my one of my favorite user reviews on Letterboxd was like they were saying like when they had the circle, that was like my Avengers assembled moment.
I know. I know. It really felt that way. It
That really
did.
made me laugh.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
love
it's
that.
interesting. I am such a nihilist that I like look at all these user reviews because I find them fascinating and sometimes they hurt and sometimes they're supportive and sometimes they're just hilarious. But it is truly like a you get it or you don't. Or
Yeah.
like nice with you or you don't. Like um there are some people in the middle, but I feel like most of it is like I loved it and I connected with it, or this is all fake and what did I just watch?
Yeah. Yeah. I think we're coming closer and closer to a time when everybody on earth understands that they have spiritual gifts too. And that the true gift is the curiosity to pursue it, not the mediumship itself. Mediumship is
Yeah.
something that we all have access to. It's the curiosity to pursue it. And I think that, not anytime real soon, but I think in 200 years, I think a vast majority of people will know that they have this ability as well.
I had a client one time and I forget who it was, but we were just talking about like the idea of spirit and different dimensions, and she was just like, it's just physics that we don't understand yet. And I was like, I agree.
Yeah, I agree too.
Like it's a vibration and frequency and energy that we're not privy to yet, or we can't quite measure
Yeah.
or un untap yet.
I love looking at it that way as well because I also enjoy the kind of the more, woo-woo way to look at it, which is it's
Oh, I
this
love a woo. Yeah.
absolutely, you know, but I don't necessarily know, and I think maybe we've talked about this, but I'm not sure, but I don't necessarily know that the energies that I'm connecting to are the spirit of past people. I don't know what it is that we're connecting to. I think it could be that. It could be that we're connecting to the memories of the person we're reading. It could be that we're connecting to, I don't know. And
Yeah.
and so I do look at it like we're like the traditional way of considering mediumship, but I also mainly think of it in the sense of it's just a part of reality that we don't understand. And I
Yeah.
usually call them energies, just to be more general about what it is that we're doing, because I just don't know. And I try to make it clear that I don't know what's happening here. I don't have any answer.
Yeah. It is a very kind of like what's going on, and I really try and grasp. Maybe grasp is the wrong word, but I try to give it a sense of groundedness whenever I can. So, like, yeah, if your grandmother gives me some interesting prediction, let me know if it happens,
Yeah,
you know? And yeah, if your grandmother is giving me these names and these details and dates and locations and whatever, I need your validation because I don't know if it's true until you tell me.
yeah, yeah.
Because
Please.
again, we're given information, but we're not given the history or the. Do you know what I mean? Like, the full story of it. It's like glimpses of a story, and they're trying to communicate it to us. But I need my sitter to like let me know if it makes sense because that's how we ground it.
That's right. I have a client who comes to me fairly regularly, and she's excellent because she's a medium too, and she just understands that it's not just us, it's not just me or you spouting information. It's a shared experience. It's a shared intuitive experience. So if the sitter can participate and share their intuitions about what things mean, it just makes it so much more meaningful and so much more
Yeah.
helpful to
Yeah.
them.
I just haven't been able to get to a level in my mediumship where I'm given the information and I know the whole story behind the information. Um, and I don't know if I'll ever get there, and that's okay too. But client participation is very necessary, I feel, in
For
this work.
sure. You're not always going to get it, but it's better for them. It's more about the success of the reading. It's just better for them to be able to participate. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we're giving cold readings or, that we're, getting information so that we can spout it back. It just means if I see, for instance, a red hat, it means nothing to me. And it's helpful
Yeah.
if the sitter says, red hat, I think what you're getting. And then we say, yeah. And then the next thing that comes through is aided by that
Yeah.
validation.
Yeah. I had an interesting experience where I was doing a reading and this person's like loved ones come through and um what was the symbol they gave me? Um Drums. They were like they're showing me drums, like rock star drums, like he must have played drums. And she was like, no. But she started crying and I was like, I don't understand what the drums mean. And she was like, before this session, I just asked him as a sign to give you the symbol of drums, just to let me know that it's him, even though he like wasn't a drummer.
I love
No?
that.
But
It's
that's what I mean was like, I don't know. It truly feels like a game of charades sometimes.
you keep how
Sometimes I
could
am more knowing, and sometimes I don't know shit. And sometimes I get more backstory, and sometimes I get nothing. It really depends on like the day, the spirit, the client. It's all these different factors.
Yeah, and I bet I have a feeling, Pear, that when you're giving readings, maybe you don't remember as much as what happens specifically, because I have a feeling you know the full story. I know you as a
I
medium.
wish I did. I
I
wish
know
I
you as a
did.
medium. I've seen you work. I know that
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
we
I
all
wish
have
I
different.
knew the full story.
What's that?
I wish I knew the full story. I'm trying to think. Um,
You know the full story for you and what you need to share, and it is the full story
yeah.
there, right?
Yeah. I've been in some classes that were very, very difficult because they really challenged you to know the full story, and it like made it so hard to because I felt like I was forcing it. Like, give me more, give me more. I need to know everything, and that was these were very, very helpful classes, but it definitely showed me my limitations, and then maybe I'll break through that, maybe I won't, but we're able to give meaningful connections and meaningful messages, whether we know the full story or not.
Yeah. And it's not how it works for everybody. Everybody communicates differently, you know?
Yeah.
Some people are able to communicate a narrative. Some people are more symbolic. Some people are poetic and metaphorical in their
Yeah.
delivery. And
Yeah.
it's none of them are right or wrong. And I don't like the idea of being pushed to deliver in a certain way when it's just not what comes through. What you share, Pear, is the full story for the person you're reading, you know? That's what I mean.
Yeah. And then there are those readings that just don't go anywhere and then you have to stop it, which is fine as well.
Yeah, or the ones where it's just it's a mystery, like the skateboard. It's just a mystery until it's not, it's
Yeah.
just so beautiful. I'm so glad you got a chance to share that. And I feel like I'm gonna send you, or maybe you can pull it out yourself and put the clip of you explaining that on Instagram or something.
Yeah, it was really like I really took it as like my personal crusade. Like, no, I'm gonna let people know that that fucking made sense and that was real. But I'm letting that go a little bit more because that was just fully ego driven. Like I need people to know that I was right.
No, but I don't blame you. You were the sacrificial lamb to make a point,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And it's because you have this gentle, peaceful energy, and so it was safe to see it through you. But everybody has those moments. It's
Yeah.
no medium ever in the world has not had those moments. It just needed to be shown, and you happened to be the poor little lamb that had to show it. But now we
Yeah.
see that actually those moments have meaning too. And I think that's important to share. So if you don't put it on your Instagram page, I'm going to put it on your Instagram page. And it's going to become my crusade to show that all information is meaningful. Even if it doesn't make sense in the moment, just receive, receive. Don't say no,
Yeah, even
receive.
even the even the clients that I have that, we don't connect and I like stop the reading and give them a full refund, like I always tell them, just even though that didn't make sense for you now, just please hold on to the information. Just hold on to the recording, hold on to the notes. I know that you didn't understand any of it, and I know that we didn't have a great connection, but just hold on to it just in case. Because I've had a reading from a colleague of mine, and she kept telling me this thing, a specific thing about my best friend Alex. She was connecting to my
Mhm.
best friend Alex. And she was like, he's talking about like an archive of his things. Like, you mean like clothes? Like, I got some of his clothes. She's like, no, no, no. Like, it's like a archive of like his version of historical things. I'm like, don't know what that means, but I'll hold on to it. Okay. 5 years later, um, his mom comes visits us in London. His mom and his sister. We all go see Taylor Swift together.
Mhm.
And his mom was like, "Oh my gosh, we just uncovered Alex's time capsule." I was like, "Oh, that's what she meant."
Oh, wow.
5 years later, I understand what she meant.
Wow.
You
Wow.
know?
Yeah.
I'm like, hold on to everything because sometimes it'll take 5 years to make sense.
Yep.
But I thought that was a really wonderful moment and also like a learning moment, a teaching moment, if you will, for
Yeah,
myself.
that's right. No child left behind, no medium left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar, I went to see a medium in, I saw a couple mediums in Lilydale a few years ago, and one of them gave me a message, pretty extensive message about someone, and I was like, I just don't know. I just don't know. And then later I realized who it was immediately. I was like, how did I forget him? He didn't pass that long ago. It's just sometimes things take a while to click. It's a fact.
Because again, there's no time over there. I
That's
think.
right.
I feel.
I feel
That's
as
what I
well.
believe. Yeah.
There is no time. There's no time here. You know,
Oh.
that we use time.
Yeah. Well, January felt like a long time.
I think February is going to feel like a long one as well, and probably the
Yeah, it's just unfortunately with this work, at least in like my human limited kind of like understanding of it or experience of it, there's just been so many moments where I've like needed something to make sense and needed something to be validated and I needed something from this. Like I needed my ego to be um not praised, but like, yeah, validated is the most perfect word. Like, you're not crazy, this is real. But I am trying to like step away from that now because I think that creates an expectation and like makes the mediumship harder or like disconnected. When spirit feels like you're trying to force something for your own purpose or for your own agenda,
yeah,
you know?
yep,
So I'm not there yet. Like I'm not some, enlightened monk who can like step out of ego, but I am trying slowly to just take the hits and roll with the punches and even like embrace the failures. Because I think that will lead to more humility, more acts of like authentic service as opposed to like ego validation and like needing to be right and correct and seen as right and correct.
beautiful. That is beautifully said. And
Let's see.
I pursue that as well. I'm with you on that. And I really appreciate you coming and talking about your experience, and just know that you came across beautifully. And I know that what we just said is that shouldn't matter, but um,
Yeah, but
you
it
shared.
does help.
Yeah, you gave a lot by doing that. It also benefited you in some ways, I'm sure, but it was also a big risk and sacrifice. It was brave of you. And
Yeah, it's this is I'm sure you wrestle with this too, but I wrestle with this whole practice as a business as well
yeah,
because we have to um pay bills and eat and buy clothes and make money. And I don't know. I'm sorry, I'm just like rambling now. I don't have an answer to this, but it's something I wrestle with constantly.
Me too.
Um, so I do find ways to offer free services
Yep.
or discounted services, but I don't do it when people ask me to do it, if that
Yep.
makes sense.
It
Like I
does.
don't like when people ask me if I could do something for free or ask me if I could do something discounted. I've asked Spirit to guide me towards these moments, and I feel like they're starting to happen where I feel good about giving these things for free.
You offer your Sunday circle is free, right?
Yes,
Yeah, you
every
do
other
that.
Sunday is a free meditation. And then I've also just posted on my stories that so in that group meditation, I would sometimes receive downloads from people that are sitting with me, but I never acted on it. I never like said, "Does this make sense for anyone?" But last week I actually finally did because I felt compelled to, and it absolutely did make sense for someone. So I wrote on my stories that I'm testing like a group session. Um, of like 10 people or so and just see how that goes for an hour of like doing a group reading.
Hmm.
I guess kind of not dissimilar to what the professionals do in big auditoriums, but
Yeah.
just a smaller version of that. And that's free for like the testing period. And I'm doing my first one next week,
Good.
February 13th. Yeah. Um, so we'll see how that goes because I do want to reach more people, and I know that sometimes the cost of what we do could be prohibitive for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Also, I think, I hopefully I could speak for you as well. We want people to understand this is a lot of like hard work, and it can be very draining as well.
Yeah.
And it's not like therapy where people are coming to us every week, so we don't have that kind of like consistent
Yeah.
turnaround, you
Yeah.
know? Like I always tell people, I only want to see you like once or twice a year, really, if we're having healthy boundaries. But I don't think we should offer our services for, pennies and peanuts.
No, I don't think so either. I think it is an energetic drain. It is hard work. It takes a lot of practice and it takes dedication. You have to constantly be in connection with yourself and with the energies around you.
Yeah.
And then I think
I've
balancing it with free services is how you
That's
kind of,
how I've come to go about it. I've also like will sometimes link other intuitives who cost less, and not because I'm better or they're worse or anything like that. It's simply about I find like where you live in the world. Like I live in an expensive ass city. I live in New York and London.
yeah,
I'm gonna charge appropriately. Someone that lives in like um I don't know, let's say Arizona
Falls,
somewhere
Tennessee. Right.
wherever, yeah, in a city that's not so cost prohibitive, could afford to charge less.
Yeah.
And that's wonderful. And so I will often link people to different intuitives who charge less. Again, not because I want people to understand just because someone charges more doesn't mean that they're better as
No,
well.
no, definitely not.
It's
That's,
just what I charge is what I've had a lot of meditation about it and like asking for signs, does this feel right? And it does feel right for me in where I'm at now. And then balancing it with free services feels right as well.
I agree. I agree. It is a very hard aspect of it, but
Yeah.
it it's a part of it. We have to charge. That's the
Yeah.
society we live in. So, well, Pear, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing everything you shared. It was really nice to just spend time with you. And
Me too. It was lovely to spend time with you. Always love seeing you.
you too.
Um, yeah.
Is there
Keep in
any
touch.
place that people can go to access all of your services? Is there a website or anything that they can?
Yeah, it's just pearericborja.com. And same with Instagram. And then emails info@pearericborja.com.
Okay, perfect. Good. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Kristen.
Pear. You're welcome. I will talk to you soon, I hope. And I'm going to come to one of your Sunday events.
Yeah, you're on the
I am on
email
the
list,
list. Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yep.
some people email me and are like, I'm so sorry. Can I come? It's like, don't say sorry. Just it's a come whenever you can kind of
Yeah.
situation.
Totally. Totally. I have a circle on Meetup, by the way, that I think I told you about it. It's tough for you because it's
Oh,
it's at 8. p.m. ET.
Oh yeah.
But
That
if
would
you're
be
ever in
like
the States,
1 a.m.
yeah,
I think like 1 a.m. or 12 a.m. my time, which would be I would be like this on
yeah.
it.
If
But I
you're
do
ever
want
in,
to find more circles. If you ever do it earlier, let me know.
I actually am gonna, I got asked to do to be what they call a guide on this app called Soul, SOL, which is all spiritual events. It's like meetup, but for
Cool.
spiritual
Okay.
events. And I'm doing a
Yeah.
circle at 2 p.m. ET on
I could make
Saturdays.
that.
Yeah,
I
so
could make
I'll let you
that.
know once that picks up. But if you're ever in the States, the one on Meetup is pretty established. It's free, and it's just like Melissa's,
Yeah,
except it's
that's
Zoom.
that's what I'm missing is a circle. I need to get back into circle. So
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, I'll send you the details. All right, Pear, I will see you soon. Thanks very much.
Thank you.